That how do you fund that?
They have, if you go on there, you kind of have like a step-by-step.
It was just like that what happened when I went to the whole semester.
July 10th.
Wait, first time?
13th and 17th.
Can they see each other?
Everyone's been talking on each
How
other.
are they talking to each other?
Can they? Yeah, they can just hear each other through.
Maybe, I don't know, it sounded very.
It sounded like a group thing, so.
That's funny.
Hi, Brianna.
Level of technological understanding.
Oh wait.
We're all here.
There you go. Find my MAC address. There's a button.
All right.
I don't know what
Let's get started.
Nailed it.
Good morning, thanks for coming out, congratulations. We are going to cover basically our organization and then what you will need to do to move on from candidate membership to full membership. And really, I'm not always a fan of these things, but just to do it, let's all just do a quick introduction. If you could tell us our names, or your name, where you're from, anything else you think is important. Start with that.
I'm Matt Marvin. I'm from Lincoln, Nebraska, and I am a second year.
I'm Chris Schmidt. I am also from Lincoln, and I'll be a 2L.
I'm Michael Scholes. I'm a 2L, or will be, and I'm from Ainsworth, Nebraska.
I'm John Zimmer. I'm in the same class. I'm from North Fork, Nebraska.
Ryan Kleesner from Wichita, Kansas, 2L.
Kara Bostrom from Glen Island, also 2L. Shannon Schroeder from Lincoln, also 2L.
Dave McDonald from Lincoln, also 2L. Meredith Wales from Florida, I'm a 3L.
This is Michael Bull. I'm from Ankeny, Iowa, and also part of 3L row here.
Taylor Brooks, and yeah, 3L. Or
Jen-
Lincoln, sorry. Jess Bounds, I'm from Ogallala, Nebraska.
Brianna and Craig are on Skype. I don't know. Do you guys want to holler something through the Skype real quick?
Go ahead, Craig.
Whatever
What am I supposed to say?
Where are you?
you want.
Kansas.
Kansas.
I'm in Colorado. I like things. One of them.
That's great.
Okay, I'm Brianna Hildebrand, and I'm from Bismarck, North Dakota, where I'm currently studying summer.
And so we have a number of students who are out of town this summer, so there's more in our group you'll be working with. My name's Nate, I'm the editor-in-chief, so I've been emailing you a lot lately from Illinois. And let's get started. Now, I was talking to somebody on the phone who was out of town about how we were going to work out spading, and they said, oh, well, I'm looking forward to it, it'll be fun. And my response was, well, I don't know how much fun it'll be, but you'll get to haze the next class coming in. And I thought about that after I said it, and that's exactly the opposite message I want to give to you. It's not hazing. At times it might seem like it's a real big pain, and when you're you have class and you have readings to do and you have 100 footnotes to go through and spade, it might seem like not a pleasant experience, but you guys are really the front line in making the law review an honor to be here in the first place. Judges and practitioners, they read this journal. Local judges, a lot of them are from UNL, they subscribe and they read every issue and every article in it. And people are paying attention, and to the extent that it's an honor to be here, the work you'll be doing will be putting the integrity into the journal that makes it an honor to be here in the first place. So please don't think of it as hazing. Think of it as you guys are really the foundation in an important process. And you may have seen from the publication schedule, there's 10 edits, right? There's, you guys will do an edit. Executive editors do 3. I do 4. Authors do 2. So there will be lots of chances to catch little glitches and whatnot. But a lot of what you guys will be doing, particularly going back to the original source and making sure it supports the proposition it's cited for supporting, the author's not going to go back and check 350 footnotes. We're not going to do that. You are the only people that will be checking that. So really, take pride in what you're doing, and when you're a little stressed out, just keep in mind that it's a really important job. And we're very happy to have you help us out with it. So, just a quick schedule. We're going to do stuff with me here till about 10:15. Sarah Hyman, our articles editor, will come in and talk to you about writing your case note, picking your case note topic, tips for researching, how the grading process works. Our executive editors will come in, and you will be meeting with the executive editor who will be in charge of the article that you will be spading for. And for those of you that are out of town, we have someone that will come in and cover that with you. Take a 15-minute break. Fred Abood, the Lexis Fellow, will be giving us a free lunch and giving you some researching tips for finding case notes. I can tell you that finding a good, solid case note topic, some kind of circuit split, something you want to write about, can be a process, you know, so his tips will really help you figure out ways to find a good legal issue that you can write about. You may be concerned that maybe this issue gets resolved by a court while you're in the middle of writing it, which makes writing it moot, you know. So his tips will help you kind of navigate some of that stuff. And then Richard Leiter, the head of the library, will come through and show you some really important resources. There's a lot of them online. Hein Online is the one we use a lot. And he'll give you a quick tour of the library. There's a shelf where we store all our law review sources that we order in for articles that you'll be going to a lot for spading. And if you have any questions, we'll have a minute for that, and then off you go to do whatever you'll be doing. So just a quick rundown of the organization. There's several editor positions. We try to accept enough members so that some people aren't editors. The reason for that being is on the far right, the position for executive editors. That's a term that runs 2 issues. Since we put out 4 issues a year, there's 2 terms. Having non-editor members gives us the opportunity to have the executive editors switch out and give people a choice of not having to do 2 terms, maybe just 1. So the research editor, that's Sarah Hyman. They're in charge of the write-on process. They're in charge of the case note. They'll be in charge of having your case note graded, communicating you with any questions you have about your case note, and also assigning you a mentor. Every one of you will have a full member mentor that will help you through the process. Managing editor, that's Katie Joseph, and she basically gets you your assignments, does a lot of sort of the parsing out of assignments. The articles editor, Jacqueline Swanner, she reads and chooses the articles that get selected for publication. Reviewing editor, that's Sarah Maresh. She helps out with that because it's tough to read tens of articles all the time. So. Then the 6 executive editors, each one of them will be assigned a particular, there's 6 issues or 6 articles per issue, 4 articles and 2 case notes. So every executive editor is assigned one particular article. They're in charge of that article throughout the whole process. They work with you, the spaders. They do their own edits. They communicate with me on that article. They will handle 2 issues and then either get reelected for a 2nd term or not. And so the executive editors those are the people you'll be working most closely with. You'll be receiving emails from me and the managing editor a little bit too, but the executive editor is who you'll probably get to speak with most. That's the rundown. Let's see here. I wanted just to show you our website quickly. This. And we put our issues online. Also, we have access to our white pages, which are smaller pieces, more focused on local Nebraska issues that we publish online only. and you can learn about the current volume, how to contact our current members. I don't know if you guys are on here yet. I think you might be. I'll have to let Paul know to do that. Okay, so one day your name will be on here too, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're ever curious, this is where you go. So you may have seen from the publication schedule I sent out, this is just a rough overview of how we publish a particular issue. Articles editors choose the article, you all spade it, it's edited over and over and over and over and over again, and then we publish it. So you are the first step in a very long process, but it is probably the most important step. As I said, because a lot of the stuff you check won't be checked in later edits. As you probably know from the letter I sent out, you'll be doing 4 spading assignments. These are some dates you might want to jot down. So you'll have one today that'll run about 16 days till July 7th. You'll have one basically the 2 weeks prior to when school starts, August 1st to 15th. And you'll have one in October, and then your final one will be after you become full members. So in November, we'll be having elections. Once your case note, if it's accepted, then you'll become a full member. You still will have one more issue to spade, and that will be in February of spring semester. For the case note, things get rolling pretty quick. We like to front load it because you're not in school right now, and our goal is to have you have your case note turned in before you need to start studying for finals, so we can ease up on the stress a little bit around that time. So right off the bat, starting as soon as you have a moment, start thinking about the topic you want to write. No earlier than June 30th, but no later than July 14th. Let Sarah Hyndman know what your case note topic is that you would like to write about. She'll look into it, she'll send you an approval, or say that you need to find something else to write about. That's A, so 2 members aren't writing about the same topic, and B, although you are not guaranteed the article to be published, it is important that you write about something that is still currently unresolved, right? So we don't want to write about something that's been written about a lot, or something that where there was a recent case that came down that resolved the issue. So she'll be checking that too, and then you'll be approved to write that particular topic. Somewhere in there also you'll be given your mentor, and before school starts you'll have hopefully done the bulk of your research on the topic, and then you'll be putting together an outline, and right off the bat the rough draft is due. Now this obviously is not expected to be complete or thorough, just something that you and the mentor can start having a conversation. The mentor can see what kind of arguments you're making. You guys can discuss anything that might crop up. And then over the course of fall semester, you'll have a chance for another draft, and then a final draft due at the end of October. So it's a quick process, but it's better to do it this way than to drag it out when you have other things that you need to be worrying about, which will detract from both of those things. That's the way we see it. So that's our case note schedule, which Sarah will be talking to you a little bit more about later. So let's talk about spading. Hopefully you brought your blue books and your spading manual and have your Texas manual on usage and style downloaded. So our spading manual covers local rules. I'm not sure, maybe in your research, in your summer job, you've seen that the Nebraska Reporter, Nebraska Supreme Court, our local practitioners have particular things that they do that might not be the same way the Blue Book does it. So this rule covers those, and we'll run over some of those together. So this is always the highest authority, right? If there's ever a conflict between this and something else, go with the spading manual. It's a little bit wrong to talk about what supersedes what between the Texas Manual on Usage and Style and the Blue Book, because they kind of cover different things. There are some areas where they both talk about the same thing, but usually they agree. If you ever find a conflict between those, write to your executive editor or me and ask. But the Blue Book will cover basically citation form. Texas Manual on Usage and Style will tell you about word choice, proper punctuation, grammar. You know, you're going to be going back to middle school and like split infinitives and all this kind of stuff. And if you forget those things, then this will have a lot of it in there for you. Any questions? No? So, we usually run through a 3-step process with spading. You don't have to do it this way, but this is the way we recommend it. First, we'll do a plagiarism check. We just want to make sure the author's work is their own, so that should just take you a couple minutes, really. Footnotes, you're going to look through the substance. Physical sources will be placed in the library. Online sources will be downloaded onto a G Drive account through your executive editor. Some sources, which cite to, say, online pages, will just be online. You don't have to access those directly yourself. You'll also want to check form. And this is really, substance and form of footnotes is where the lion's share of spading work comes in. So, you know, some footnotes might have 8 or 9 sources in them, and you're going to need to go through every single one of those, check every proposition that they cite, yada yada. So this is where knowing your rules backwards and forwards really saves you a lot of time. This is the part that will, as you get better and do more assignments, will slowly start to maybe shrink in time a little bit. At first, really tread carefully through this part, because this is where most of the judgment calls and potential for not catching things crops up. As you'll learn when you talk to your executive editors, you don't make your footnote changes to the article that you're sent. There's a separate document, and they'll show you how to do that, but those changes will happen in a separate page. Lastly, you're going to edit the text. Now, we don't want to tell the author they're writing things incorrectly. We don't want to substitute our voice for them, but if there's a clear grammatical error, punctuation, something that is not of the quality that we want to put out as a journal, we'll look for those things and catch them. So let's just do a quick rundown of each step in that process real quick. For your plagiarism check, you're just going to select randomly 10 sentences or phrases throughout your portion of the article that you're given. And I'm sure you know this, but if you want to search for the exact phrase in like Google or something, put quotes around it, right? So pick those from both the main text and from the footnote text. Stick quotes around them and pop them into the Westlaw, Lexis, Google. Mix it up, you know, see if you catch anything, and let us know if you do. And all the articles I've worked on or have seen go through, never caught anything, you know. And I doubt you will too, but it's a good idea to check. Footnotes, form. You'll be given a spading memo when you're sent your assignment, and this spading memo says, okay, go through the whole article and look for spacing rules. Or, I'm sorry, not article, footnotes, right? Then go through all the footnotes and look for capitalization, and then go through all the footnotes and look for proper abbreviation of named sources, etc. So that's one school of thought. You kind of go through everything looking for a couple rules and you kind of catch them quickly. Personally, I prefer to do it one footnote in full at a time. It's really, there's no reason to do it one way or other than your personal preference, so just think about that. And you know, we're looking for even whether a period is italicized. Okay, we're looking for whether the order order of sources listed in the footnote are correct. And we're going to go through a bunch of these rules today, but when we say check form, we mean every single detail, right? And like I said before, this is where knowing your rules backwards and forwards can save you time. And by the end of the first one or second one, you probably will know them backwards and forwards, whether you are trying to or not, because you just end up covering a lot. Next we have substance. This is really, like I said, the most important thing that you'll be doing. This is the thing that no one else will check besides you. And, you know, judges and their opinions, other law review articles, memos you write, cite law review articles, right? So to the extent that the law review article is citing a source for a proposition that it doesn't support, you're undermining the whole system of how we all sort of rely on authority. So this is an extremely important step. And so what this means is, A, you're checking for this sort of technical details. Was the title spelled correctly? Were the author's names spelled correctly? Were the right authors listed? Was it the right year of publication? Were the right page numbers listed? And then you're checking to see if the source supports the proposition that they're citing it for. Now, I think some authors and professors maybe aren't particularly concerned that they list something correctly because they know it's going to be caught by the spader. So you'll sometimes see articles where it'll be the page number won't be listed, and you'll need to go through the source, find where the part of that source that supports the proposition is, and put the page number in yourself. Or they'll have an internal cross-reference in their article, and they'll say C supra blank. And you need to go back through their article and find where they're referring to. So at times this can involve a lot of work and a lot of reading. That won't happen a lot. But again, the buck stops at you for making sure that everything they cite says what it is they say it says. So one particular thing to be careful about is quotes. There, you're checking this, make sure the spacing is the right. I mean, if the quote uses, I'm sorry, the original source uses the wrong dash, right? It's supposed to use an M dash, but it's using an N dash. You want the quote to follow the source exactly, right? There's a mistake in the source, the mistake should show up in the quotation. That's what we had sick for. You're all familiar with sick. So, misspellings, everything. You're checking the quote word for word, space for space, punctuation mark for punctuation mark. The only difference between how we quote an original source, between what we say and what the source says, is we have, and we'll cover this, the two-space rule, which means between sentences, you put two spaces, not one. Okay. So even if the original source only uses one space, you'll put two. But other than that, we want them to be exactly the same. And that's substance of the footnotes. And lastly, editing the text. The article you'll be given will probably already have track changes on. I guess that's track, not track changes. And so you'll be making sure that your changes aren't going in the article, they're being tracked. You'll be reading the portion of the text that corresponds to your footnotes. And again, we're checking for mistakes. You don't want to substitute your own voice for the author's, but if you're not sure, there's a judgment call issue there, what you should do is make the change and put a note to your executive editor. Hey, I wasn't sure if I should do this or not. Here's my thinking. Here's why I think I should or shouldn't have changed this. And your executive editor or I will make the final call. Okay. So we've got about 45 minutes here, and we're going to start running through the rules. This is where, if you brought your sticky tabs and your pens, let's get them out. I'm not sure how many of you subscribe to the Blue Book online. It's very helpful, but you don't always know the keyword for what you're trying to find, so knowing the Blue Book, knowing the rules, how it's organized, there's not really a way to replace that. So let's start running through these. And let me emphasize, the rules that I picked to go over, I picked because either A, they tend to crop up a lot, B, they're kind of confusing, so it's best to address them now. But there are lots of rules that we're skipping. We're skipping most of the rules, right? And you are responsible for all of them. So, for example, there's a whole section here on administrative or legislative documents, right? We're not going to cover that in detail. But you will constantly want to be checking back to the Blue Book for sources that you look at, and I don't want to give the impression that these rules are ones to remember to the exclusion of others. These are just ones that happen to come up a lot or be a little confusing at times. So the spading manual, and actually there are so few rules here, I might just quickly run over all of them, but these are the three I wanted to emphasize. So let's turn to page 8. So our first local rule, since we're in Nebraska, we do things special for Nebraska. And our first rule is that we always do parallel cites for Nebraska cases. So you want to cite to the Nebraska Reporter and Northwest Reporter. Nothing too tricky about that. Now, NLR2, I have to admit, I was sitting in your seat last year and they told us this. I didn't really understand. It took me a while to get how this works. So maybe you're very familiar with it. I didn't happen to have a lot of Nebraska cases, or in the spading assignments I did, so this took a little bit of sussing out on my part, but so I'm going to cover it with you because I found it a little bit confusing. We don't cite Nebraska statutes according to Blue Book. We cite it according to the Nebraska Revised Statutes system of putting these out. So, as you might know, Nebraska puts out its entire code in reissues, right? The reissues restate every statute in the Nebraska code. Now, and this is a good website, by the way, if you get confused about this, like I was. I think it's Nebraska Legislature. Excuse me here. Why isn't there Google? So if you go to Nebraska Legislature, their website, and you go to Bills and Laws, and go to Search Laws. And we see here that they put out reissues, right? But the reissues only do a portion of the code at a time. So in 2012, there were three reissues, volumes 1, 1A, 1B. These only covered chapters 1 through 23. I think there's something like 89 chapters, 90 chapters in the Nebraska Code. So if you're citing something, let's say chapter 27, you're going to cite it to the reissue 2008, right? So you need to find, if you're citing a Nebraska statute or somebody is in an article and you're trying to confirm the statute is correct, you need to find which reissue put it out. Subsequently, every year, odd year after a reissue, there is a supplement that's put out that publishes any changes that have been made to those laws or any mistakes that have been found in those laws. Every even-numbered year after a reissue, there's a cumulative supplement, and that incorporates the changes that were made in the supplement from the year before and any additional changes. So you may find a law that was reissued in 2008, and then in the 2012 supplement, since that's an even year, that would be a cumulative supplement. That particular provision was contained in that, meaning there was a change to it or there was a mistake found in the reissue from before. So if that was the case, you would say reissue 2008, semicolon, cum sup